How are you, sir? How are you, sir?
I'm John Smith from Ireland 2, Lakeland. I wrote to you recently about buying a farm, and you suggested that I'd come in and talk the matter over thoroughly with you.
I remember your letter very well, Mr. Smith. You said you had $7,000 with no strings on it, and that you had farm experience a few years back.
Yes, I stayed home following school for about 8 years. I worked in industry for about 10 years. But my wife, she comes from the farm too. And seeing that we have 3 boys, we think the farm is the best place to raise them.
Well, now, this is all very interesting. We have many people in the course of a year write to us and come to our offices for this kind of a problem. Usually, though, a great many of them do not have the amount of money that you have, and they don't just have the right kind of experience either. A great many of them have no farm experience. But in your case, I think you have enough money and the proper kind of experience. Now, we have a few pictures. We'd like to show them to you. This farm is for sale. 2 houses, excellent barn, fertile soil. $30,000 might buy this property, but it is not for the beginner. In parts of Ontario, perimeter areas especially, cities are encroaching on many farms. Here, this huge plant is established on good farm land. More farmland, which is being held for speculation, is owned by a syndicate. The barn is down, and this field of goldenrod has been there for the past 3 years. Farmers move back and buy other land, but we will hope they will not buy land as low as this. The soil is low-lying, and the drainage is very poor in this particular area. The land will just not put up enough productivity in the way of crops to support the area. Someone has built a barn which he will take a long time paying for on soil like this. It is a mistake that operators sometimes make. As one can see, the land is low, and the general air of decrepitness pervades the whole community. Roads are not adequately surfaced, and where you find this, you generally find a land area which is a good one to stay away from if you're thinking of purchasing a farm. This farm might grow Christmas trees and little else. This is a good, useful barn. The young couple who are on this farm have been successfully farming this land for several years. The house is not the best in the world, but this husband and wife are making an excellent job of producing income and paying off debt on this fertile 175 acres of not too high-priced land. The roads are good. The church is not too far from the farm lane. Services are easily arranged. Schools are a necessary thing for growing families, and the school is, as a matter of fact, on the corner of this young couple's farm. The community is a good one. Buildings all around the countryside are in good repair. The soil is very fertile, well drained, and the outside fences of these farms are in good shape. This tractor is doing the last job of plowing in the fall of the year. A few final points would be fertile soil, useful buildings, fair outside fences, a never-failing well, and of course a short lane. And I spoke about these all-weather roads and the churches and schools and good community centers. Mr. Smith, if I were you, I would always try to buy a farm that will increase in value.
All right, sir. Thank you very
I'm
much,
very
sir.
glad you came in.
All goodbye, sir.
cart.
Don, I was born and raised on a farm. After I left school, I worked for my father on the farm.
Did you own your own farm?
I did the last number of years at our farm. Previously to that, I rented my father's farm for 5 years.
And when did you leave the farm?
I left the farm in 1958.
Now, could you give us the main reasons why you decided to give up farming?
Well, Don, my main reason was physical. I developed some back trouble. I was unable to do full day's work. And as a result, it ended in financial stress, and I was forced to sell my farm.
You were operating as a one-man farm. You didn't have hired help.
That is correct.
And what about your son? Was he interested in farming as a career, or did this contribute to your decision, too?
My son was not interested in the farm. Had he been interested, I might have possibly continued as on farm.
As a man who had only gone to high school until he was 16, didn't have any other training besides farming, did you find much difficulty in getting a job when you left the farm?
Certain types of employment were difficult to obtain, although selling jobs, which would be commission, were very easily had. That is what I started out as.
Why didn't you stay with this kind of work?
Well, income was too
Fluctuated quite a bit. It was
Yes.
a little bit like farming, perhaps.
That's
And
right.
how did you come to take up the work you're now doing?
I was fortunate in knowing the supervisor in one of our local supermarkets, and I was given employment there as a meat cutter.
You've had this job for several years. How do you compare farming and non-farming occupations?
Well, the labor is not as strenuous, of course, in the job I'm doing now. However, there's a certain satisfaction in doing your own work and so forth.
You had perhaps more opportunity for community activities in the country than you find in the city?
Yes, Don, that is right. For this reason, that I feel there was a greater need for it in rural areas.
I see. Now, how about income?
Income at the present time, you are restricted to what you can earn because of the restricted hours. Whereas on a farm, if you have a large enough operation and certain lines of farming, there is no restriction as to your income.
But on the other hand, in your present employment, you know exactly how much you'll be making.
Yes, that's right, Don.
And what about security and pension plans? I suppose your present job would have this sort of arrangement.
Yes, we have a contributory pension plan, and at a certain age, retirement age, why we will be given a certain income.
I'm wondering about your family's reaction to this change. First of all, how many of the family do you have, Bruce?
We have 3 girls and 1 boy.
Well, how did they like the idea of leaving the farm, and how do they like city life now?
Well, they like city life very well. The girls didn't seem to need too much adjustment. Of course, my son, being the oldest, there were a lot of things that he missed on the farm, and I think putting in his time here in the beginning was his biggest problem.
There probably isn't as much difference between living in the country and the city nowadays as there used to be.
No, there isn't, Don. We had all the convenience on the farm that we have in the city. As far as actual living conditions go, I can't see any difference.
No, I think this is so nowadays. Finally, Bruce, I'd just like to ask you for your comment or any observation you'd like to make for a young person who's considering farming as a career.
Don, I believe there is a definite future for a young couple on a farm today, providing they would have sufficient financial backing that they could go into specialized farming. And I feel that there would be could be a real income in a specialized line.